So on this platform, there are some really, really cool builds that have been done in Sons of the Forest. Probably in part due to the fact that the building system in Sons of the Forest is vastly improved from the Forest. There's just so much more you can do as far as customizable options go. And I love looking at them. But not everybody wants to build a giant Japanese castle or an old Roman fortress or just, the McMansions of the world that you can build in this game. Sometimes you're just an average player looking for an average building that actually has some space in it because, let's face it, unlike some of the options from the Forest, there really aren't any good options in Sons of the Forest to just easily put together and hold stuff. So that's where this build comes in. This is a very, very basic building based off of 2 of the standard medium platforms to be able to house your stuff. And it came about because I have a friend with whom I'm in a multiplayer game with, her and, 6 other people, because we're crazy and we have all 8 of us, and all of us are doing our own things for the most part. But she's somebody who really doesn't like the building part of the game. She just wants to go out into the caves and, get down and dirty with some cannibals and mess them up and take their stuff and, do the exploring and adventuring part of the game. But I told her, I was like, hey, you're gonna need a place to put some of that stuff. And she's like, I know, but I just don't want to build. And I was like, I got you. So this very, very basic build, I have quite fondly nicknamed the Shit Shack. It takes plenty of materials in and of itself, but as far as a build goes, I think it's extremely simple. It can be done with minimal to low effort and just a lot of trees. I have put this particular building on a cute little island in the middle of a lake. We nicknamed this island Safety Island because for 3 out of 4 seasons of the years, cannibals can't get to it. Cannibals and mutants cannot reach this particular island, so you're safe out here until winter comes and it freezes and then they can walk across the ice. But for 3 out of 4 seasons, this can be a sanctuary. And since Virginia and Kelvin can swim, you don't even have to worry about whether or not they can reach the sanctuary, because they can. So it's a small building and it fits in this really nice little spot that happens to be nearby to the modern axe, which will help you out so much in chopping down the trees. About the only things you're going to want to do before starting this build is going to get your rebreather so that you can then go and get your spear gun, because while I am personally using a cheat code to spawn in the logs and stuff that I need, you're going to want that rope gun to be across the island and sending logs over to be used in your building process, because otherwise you got a really, really, really long build ahead of you as you wait for the 2 or 3 trees that actually spawn on this island to continually regrow and respawn. And nobody wants that. Now, you could always Google and cheat code in the items like I did, but if you want to do it the real way, then it is entirely possible. You need the rebreather, because in order to get to the spear gun, there's swimming to be done. So get your rebreather, get your spear gun, so that you can have a nice little rope ability to send the logs across. And then just do that. You can even have Kelvin over across the way gathering logs into a spot or some holders for you while you're over here mucking about on the roof, putting in your trusses and getting everything situated and set up so that you can have a shit shack of your own. And it really, like, you're gonna be amazed at just how much furniture you can fit in here to make it cozy, to have storage options, and to really utilize it. It's, in my opinion, the perfect little place for the player that needs a spot but doesn't want like thousands of shelves for thousands of items because you've collected literally everything and you're gonna save it all for the quote-unquote perfect moment, and then, you know, reach end game with a few thousand items stored in the attic of your McMansion that you spent hundreds of hours working on for not hundreds of hours of gameplay. Hi, I am that person who builds the McMansion and saves every item to never use it because I might need it for something more important later. So obviously my friend is not the same person as me, and she just uses as she goes, but I maintain, based on how quickly you can potentially find stuff, you still might need a spot to store your items, which is where the shit shack comes in. Now, as you're building the shit shack, I advise you to save all your scraps, all of them, because especially if you're building in the same area that I am, it's a pain to get stuff over to the island sometimes. And having stuff saved will just be that much easier for you in the long run. So in order to save it, all you do is grab it and jam it into the ground somehow. That way the game doesn't automatically despawn it on you, and you get to keep it for future uses, whether it's maybe building a new trap, or, you know, you decided that Virginia needs her own bed, or you need to throw something at Kelvin because he's not doing what you told him to do. Don't look at me like that. You know you have abused Kelvin as much as I have. And I know some of the players watching this have probably just straight up taken Kelvin out of the game by murderous methods. But we try to use Kelvin for what he's good for, and that is free labor. He's here with us to get us logs or sticks or fish or whatever else you might need him to get. And now that with the release of 1.0 he can find your spears and stuff, it's pretty bomb, because crafted spears, very useful early game, very much a pain in the butt to go back and find again after you've chucked them at enemies who very rudely dodged. So, this is your basic foundation of the shit shack. You're just 2 medium platforms, put up all your walls, build a nice gabled roof. And remember, there's 4 logs in each of those gables. Just one of them is a full log, and then the rest are not full logs, so save the scraps. But it creates this really nice, simple enclosure. You're gonna want to put in your door, which, me personally, I like to frame it out because, you know, doors have frames, and that is important. And then you just, you know, chop out your section and get your logs in there. Get them in. You'll appreciate having those doors in the winter. Trust me. You will. Also remember that the side you're looking at is the side that's going to be the inside, so build them from the inside of the building. I like to put in one little window because you need to let in a little fresh air sometimes. But put the shutters up because you also don't want cannibals coming in, and that's why I don't build them the way the book says. The book shows cutting out 3 logs. I only cut out 2 logs worth because I don't want cannibals jumping through my windows when I'm airing the place out from winter, or I'm airing the place out in winter and they're just here. Like, kindly stay out of my house. You're not invited. I am putting a back porch on. Now, the back porch can serve 2 purposes depending on how close to the water you build the shit shack. In the original shit shack, because this is obviously a recreation of what I already built, I built it close enough to the water that the porch actually extends into the water. Therefore, I was able to leave a small gap with a rope leading down into the water so she can access her shit shack from the water quite easily. This one I didn't build quite that close, so there will be no rope down into the water, but the porch is still a really nice thing to have because, again, in the winter when you're dealing with cannibals that can cross the lake, it does give you a little bit of like a vantage point. It's visually pleasing, and as you're gonna see in a moment, it's a good place for like a rain catcher and stuff where it's flat, easy to access. You don't have to think about who or what might be nearby, and you can get your water. And actually, you can also get some bird feathers because you're gonna see I put up a birdhouse as well. Just one of those like nice, simple areas. Now, I know the book has its own version of railings, but I think they're ugly. I'm gonna come right out and say it. I think their version of railings is ugly, so I do my own version. Doesn't matter. Do what makes you happy. Okay, so here's our inside. Empty. It's now about time to start placing the outlines for some furniture. So the first thing we're gonna need is a cooking place. So we need our stone fireplace, which just jam it into the corner. Make sure it's flush to the wall because it's important. And then I got distracted here to put the locks on the doors. This is such an ADHD build, it's not even funny. Now, like I said, here's that water catcher. Again, ADHD, going strong, just doing what comes to mind next. And since we're outside, we might as well also put in our birdhouse, which at first I thought over the rain catcher, and then I was like, wait, no, you might not be able to easily reach the feathers, so I put it on the other side. We're gonna need a bed. I personally like the look of the bigger bed, but you can put the smaller bed in, but the big bed does fit. This is just so that you have a place to go to sleep and a place to save. Otherwise, a bed is just aesthetic. The table is a place for you to set stuff down. So it's nice to have, especially if you want to have like a radio that you put down just to play music. You're gonna need a place to store some firewood for your cooking. Thank goodness they added this in, because before, without it, oh, what a pain in the butt it was to just stack it outside and have to run for it all the time. You want a drying rack for, some of that meat that you're gonna wanna have access to. And since it's inside, you won't have birds or anything taken off with it, nor will cannibals necessarily, provided the doors are locked, come in to take it from you. A little divider shelf for the room. This is where all of that hoarding comes in. You need a spot for the things that you hoard. Okay? There's our furniture. So now it's just time to put it together. And I'm speeding through this part because I'm sure you guys don't want to sit here for 15 minutes and watch me just build furniture. But it is still interesting. I am still cheat coding a bunch of stuff in so that I don't have to go find hides and all the 9 yards and so on and so forth. But you can see I'm reusing materials that I had left behind that are coming off of what I'm currently building because it's important. So once you're finished putting all of your things together, the very next step, of course, is to put a bench in. Because you need a place to rest, Kelvin needs a place to rest, and Virginia needs a place to rest. So I like having just a little bench right out by the foot of the stairs because why not? It's a good enough place for it. It's cute. It works. If you really want to, you could put in a little outdoor fireplace here to cremate your enemies on. But do you. And I last minute decided, to put that shelf above the fireplace for our mantle, which is another good storage spot. After all this, get your ramp back in because we got to wire her up for some electricity. So you can wire this whole thing with electricity with 3 solar panels, 3 golf cart batteries, a little bit of wire, and 4 light bulbs, which is exactly what I'm doing. It works out so well because you can quickly and easily link the solar panels together, and then we're just going to run the wire down the building, which is another one of those handy dandy things that got better with 1.0 than it was in early access, at least in my experience. You just, gotta actually snap it to the correct area instead of clicking too fast, which I am quite prone to. Sometimes you gotta do like weird crouchy to get your symbols and get things where you need it to go, but you can do it. I believe in you. If I can do it, you can do it. So you can see like the little arrows. We're just gonna snap it across the center beam. Now we've got wiring down the center. We can plop up our light bulbs. Makes it easy, easy, easy. And then it'll be all lit. Except for, the power's not working because sometimes it doesn't register a connection. So you just, adapt, improvise, overcome. Pick a different log. It'll get there. And then all of a sudden, wham bam, thank you ma'am, you can turn on the lights. Let there be light. Voila. So now our shit shack is all lit up. And here it is. A nice little outside tour of the shit shack. Ooh. Spiffy. Super simple. It doesn't look like anything terribly impressive from the outside. But then you get to go inside. And there it is. I've placed some objects so you can just get an idea of what it's going to look like. But you have your cooking area, you have your sleeping area, you have your cute little window, your table. It's all set up. It's perfect. Just enough room to put your stuff down, take a load off your feet, make a save point, have a sleep, don't have to worry about cannibals, fresh water for 3 seasons, safety on an island for 3 seasons, and just centrally located and easy to access. So yeah, build yourself a shit shack, man.